This is an audio-only horror story. I want you to close your eyes in. 3, 2, 1, 0. Use your imagination as you listen, and use your imagination to invoke a scene. Enjoy the ride.
My name is Alex Harper, and until recently, I'd lived a fairly uneventful life. I was a systems analyst with a routine that rarely deviated from the norm. I had my morning coffee, worked in a cubicle, and came home to my modest apartment. The most excitement I had was choosing which streaming service to watch before bed. But all of that changed the night I discovered the truth about Reflections. It was a damp, drizzly Tuesday when it began. I'd been burning the midnight oil and trying to fix a bug in the system I was working on. My eyes were bleary, my head pounding from too much caffeine and too little sleep. Finally, I decided to call it a night. As I shuffled to my bedroom, I passed by the mirror in the hallway. I glanced at it absent-mindedly, but something felt off. The reflection looked wrong. I shook my head and went to bed, attributing it to exhaustion. Later that night, I awoke from a fitful sleep. The apartment was eerily quiet, save for the soft, persistent tapping sound. I strained to listen, the noise coming from the hallway. Reluctantly, I got up and followed the sound, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. As I approached the mirror, I noticed the tapping had stopped, but the sight before me froze me in place. My reflection was there, but it was different. My reflection's eyes were dark, empty, and the face wore a sinister smile that didn't match my own. I stumbled back, but the image remained, watching me with an unsettling calm. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light or a figment of my imagination. I turned away and went back to bed, but sleep eluded me. My thoughts raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. Over the next few days, the experience lingered in my mind. Every time I passed a reflective surface, I found myself glancing at it, half expecting to see the same disturbing image. At work, I was distracted, my focus shattered by the constant anxiety that something was watching me. The reflections seemed to be more than just tricks of the light. I would catch glimpses of them in shop windows, in the bathroom mirror of the office, even in the reflective surfaces of my computer screen. Each time, the reflections appeared more insistent, more menacing. One evening, while washing dishes, I glanced at my reflection in the kitchen window. I gasped. The reflection in the glass was moving independently, its mouth opening and closing as if trying to speak. The eyes, those hollow, dark eyes, locked onto mine with a disturbing intensity. I dropped the dish I was holding, shattering it on the floor. I spent the rest of the night researching mirrors and their possible connections to supernatural phenomena. I found nothing concrete, only vague theories about mirrors as gateways or portals. My rational mind struggled to dismiss these as superstitions, but the fear gnawing at me was very real. The following week, my dread reached new heights. The reflections seemed to follow me, always lurking just out of sight. The tapping noise returned, more persistent and louder than before. I tried to ignore it, but it was impossible to escape the feeling of being observed. One night, as I was about to sleep, the tapping grew louder, echoing through the apartment. I decided to investigate. I followed the sound to the hallway where the mirror hung. The glass was cold to the touch, and the tapping seemed to come from within. Suddenly, the surface of the mirror rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. My reflection stepped forward, its movements smooth and deliberate. It smiled at me, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent satisfaction. The reflection's voice, distorted and hollow, spoke through the glass. "Alex," it said, "we've been waiting for you." I stumbled backward, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The reflection continued, its voice gaining an almost hypnotic quality. "You've seen what we are. We're not just reflections. We exist in a parallel universe, and we've been trying to find a way to cross over." I was paralyzed with fear. "Why?" I managed to stammer. "Because we want what you have," it replied. "We want to live in this world, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to take your place." I turned and fled from the apartment, running into the night. The rain was a welcome distraction. A cold, cleansing downpour that numbed my fear and made me question my sanity. I wandered aimlessly, trying to escape the suffocating dread that had settled over me. The days following the encounter were a blur of paranoia and terror. I was unable to sleep, my mind constantly racing with thoughts of the reflections trying to take over my life. I stopped using mirrors altogether, avoiding them wherever I could. My once orderly life became a chaotic mess of sleepless nights and jittery nerves. The reflections, however, did not let up. They seemed to know my every move. Their presence felt even when I couldn't see them directly. I noticed subtle changes in my environment. A photograph would be slightly out of place, a door left ajar, a faint scratching sound that never quite ceased. One evening, desperate for answers, I visited Dr. Lawrence, a psychologist specializing in anxiety disorders. I recounted my experiences, omitting the supernatural elements, but describing the fear and the strange occurrences. Dr. Lawrence listened attentively, but his diagnosis was not reassuring. "It sounds like you're experiencing severe stress and paranoia," he said. "These reflections may be a manifestation of your anxiety. Your mind is playing tricks on you." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think it was all in my head. But the fear remained, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. I left his office with a heavy heart, knowing that even if it was all a psychological illusion, the terror was very real. Unable to bear the constant torment, I decided to confront the reflections head-on. I returned to my apartment, steeling myself against the fear. The mirror still hung in the hallway, its surface marred by the previous night's encounter. I took a deep breath and faced the mirror. "Show yourself," I demanded, my voice trembling. "I want to know what you want." The surface of the glass rippled once more. The reflection emerged, its eyes cold and unfeeling. It spoke with a calm, menacing tone. "We want to be free. This world is ours, just as much as it is yours. We will do whatever it takes to take your place." Panic surged through me. I reached for a hammer I had brought with me, but before I could act, the reflection moved with unnatural speed. It pressed against the glass, its hand emerging through the surface. I recoiled, but it was too late. The figure was coming through, its form becoming more solid with each passing second. Desperation drove me to act. I swung the hammer at the mirror, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The glass exploded, and the reflection let out a howl of frustration. The room was filled with a cold wind, and the oppressive weight of fear seemed to lift as the last shards of glass fell to the floor. The mirror was gone, but the fear remained. I spent the following days cleaning up the shattered glass and trying to piece my life back together. The reflections had been vanquished, but the experience left its mark on me. I could no longer look at a reflective surface without feeling a shiver of dread. I tried to resume my normal life, but the sense of paranoia lingered. Every time I caught a glimpse of my reflection, I wondered if something was still watching me from beyond the glass. The incident had changed me, leaving me with a lingering fear of the unknown and the unsettling realization that the world is not always what it seems. And though the mirror was gone, I knew that the reflections, whatever they were, still lurked in the shadows of my mind, waiting for the next chance to reach through the glass and claim what they believed was rightfully theirs.
As the final echoes of the tale fade into the darkness, remember this: in the shadows where fear takes root, the true horror lies not in the creatures that lurk, but in the darkness within ourselves. We tell these stories not just to scare or entertain, but to confront the fears that we try so hard to ignore. So as you step back into the light of the real world, carry with you the lessons of the night. The monsters we create are reflections of our deepest anxieties, and the strength to overcome them is within each of us. Sleep well, and remember, in the realm of fear, we are the true masters of our fate. Good night, and may your dreams be free of shadows. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the notification bell for you to see my future update on this channel. Stay safe and always remember to lock your doors.